opportunity for many years to get close to him as a young child. My sister and I, living further away, did not have that opportunity. So when my grandfather came to us about 6 years ago, I was blessed with a relationship that I didn't even intend to have with him. So this is my tribute to my grandfather. And this is my daughter, Lexi, and she's going to speak out. Today, I speak of a man who has been known to so many as a leader, an intellect, a teacher, and so much more to even list. But to me and to all of us here, he was a father, an uncle, a brother, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, and a friend. Some of my earliest childhood memories of my grandfather are that of a man sitting in a firm chair in a dark living room. He sits there under a low dimmed light, just enough light for one man. He sits there with his glasses in one hand and either the daily newspaper or one of his newest political biographies that he's reading in the other hand. He is accompanied by a beautiful woman who is sitting across from him on a flowered couch. Her legs are up, and she sits there with both one pillow behind her back to help prop her up, and another one under her legs to help keep her legs elevated. She sits there quietly working on her newest crossword puzzle of the day, and that has carried through the family, as we know. My mother is an avid crossword. She does that quite often, and even my daughters used to go to now. So, as I jump ahead to just about 6 years ago, when my grandfather made his way here to Charleston, I'm reminded of a similar yet different scenario. I still see the same man in his chair, but this time a much softer, sunken chair. He sits there with glasses in one hand, but this time not as steady as they used to be. And he's not holding the newest political biography that he can get his hands on, but rather a more dusty, worn-out one that he's chosen to read. He chooses this, and in doing so, it brings him back to those places in his mind that he chooses to go now. As I sit down and look at my grandfather, the man who once overlooked me at times and rushed me out of the room and would say these kids are making too much noise, now looks at me with acknowledgement and wonder at the woman that I have become. This man who at one time could not find the words to express to me how much he loved me is now grinning from ear to ear, stating what a beautiful young lady I've become and how proud he is to be my grandfather. I use these opportunities to learn about my grandfather and take in all the man that he was and is. I choose to go see my grandfather on a weekly basis and invite him to allow me to take him out to lunch. He agrees and begins to count down the days. I always know that on the day of our lunch date, I would walk in after being at the gym to press the button on my machine and hear him say, "Hi, Sharon, this is Grandpa. Are you still coming to get me at 11 o'clock?" I would always smile, and as soon as I heard this message, rush upstairs to get in the shower so that I could be here early. I remember as time went by, these lunches out became more and more lunches that we did within the nursing home here. And rather than he anxiously awaiting for me at the table for two, right by the window, the one he always had to have, I found myself now having to walk down the hall to his room, where I would find him fast asleep in his chair, napkin and pen in hand. He had been spending several hours prior jotting down things he wanted to tell me at lunch. And I would find myself now having to wake him up and help accompany him to the lunchroom. As my grandfather slowly unfolds his small paper napkin, he begins to tell me his list. His list would usually consist of fond memories that he had about being raised, growing up, his kids in Long Beach, and mostly my grandmother and the endless love that he had for her. Also, as we all know, he would always throw in that he wrote President Kennedy's speech on a daily basis, and we did have the heart to correct him. All of these were what I got used to hearing, and in fact loved hearing over and over again because it allowed me to become closer to the man that I always wanted to know. After lunch, we would head to the courtyard, and this is where we would take our special walk. We would talk about the flowers that were blooming, and then we would always come to the same place and stop. The stop was at a statue of a dog. Grandpa had a name for him, but I don't recall it now, and he would stop and look at it and say, "That dog is talking to me." And we talked to the dog, and then we'd head back through the path in the courtyard. At the end of each day with my grandfather, he would always end each conversation the same way. He had two things he always said to me. One was, "I want to see you become a nurse." Well, Grandpa, I did. And the second was, "I want to be able to see you meet that special man." Well, Grandpa, I'm having fun with that, but I have not been able to fulfill, and as many of you know, lots of fun with that, I've not been able to fulfill that last request. But I know that you are my angel looking down, and we'll make sure that that is fulfilled.
I am here today to talk about my great-grandfather and the relationship I got to have with him. During the times I had with him, we did many things that made many memories, such as eating lunch with him and showing him gymnastics in the courtyard. I will always remember when we would walk by the dog in the courtyard as we were impressing him with our gymnastics. I also loved going to lunch with him, whether it was here at his nursing home or at a restaurant. Either way, we had a great time. My sister and I also loved going to visit him, and although he would mix up our names, he always knew that he loved us. I will never forget how funny it was when my mom laughed at his room and he was talking to the Obama face on his card. And when she later told me this time, it made me laugh. However, some things weren't as funny. He would always tell my mom that sometime before he passed, he would see her graduate nursing school and see her make the man of her life. He got to see her graduate nursing school, however, he never got to see her make the man of her dreams. And this has cheered me up every time I think about it.
She said, "We both believe that he's looking down on us and making sure my mom is the right one."
Yeah.